the Senate Higher Education Finance and Policy Committee to order. Today is Thursday, March 3rd. It is about 12 after 1. We apologize for the late start. Session ran a little bit long, and we're giving the members and the public some time to get situated and get ready. I believe we'll still have Senator Jasinski joining very soon. But Senator Coleman, we have you up first, and your Senate File 3229. If you would like to start presenting your bill to us, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe this is my first time before your committee, so very excited to be here. This bill amends the Alternative Teacher Preparation Grant Program by expanding eligibility and providing ongoing funding for the program. As you're well aware, in 2017, the Minnesota legislature established the alternative teacher preparation policy that we have today and allocated $750,000 in grants to support these innovative programs, helping to address teacher shortages in critical license fields like special education and CTE. The initial grant was very successful in helping to add to Minnesota's ecosystem of pathways into the classroom. And now there are several established providers in Minnesota licensing teachers throughout the state. This bill would simply create an additional grant to help get new programs like the ones Minneapolis Public Schools have off the ground and provide funding to keep the cost low for future teachers. And to talk a little bit more in depth about this, I do have a testifier, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Coleman. Ms. Kelly Dietrich, is this your first testifier?
I have on my list Matt Shaver, and I'm not sure if anyone else is coming to speak on the bill. That's the one I was informed of.
All right, we'll go to Matt Shaver first, and then we have another testifier. But Mr. Shaver, will you identify yourself and begin your testimony?
Yes, Chair Rarick, members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is Matt Shaver, and I'm the Policy Director at Ed Allies, which is a statewide education advocacy nonprofit. We partner with families, educators, students, and community to work to ensure that every kid in Minnesota has access to a rigorous and engaging education. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak briefly on Senate File 3229, alternative teacher preparation programs, and the good this bill would do for our state. Thank you to Senator Coleman for your vision and leadership on the bill. Alternative teacher preparation programs are approved by our state teacher licensing agency, PELSB. They are held to the same high standards as traditional college teacher prep programs, like the one I attended at Concordia College to get my bachelor's in elementary education. Their purpose is to help stem teacher shortages, diversify our educator workforce, provide additional pathways into the classroom for career changers, and for educators already teaching in our schools, looking to add licensed specialties through an affordable program. Since the last grant for $750,000 was approved by the legislature in 2017, providers have used those funds to become operational and start training educators to earn Tier 3 and Tier 4 licenses. Last session, this committee helped to prioritize the teacher licenses with the highest need in our state, like special education and career and technical education. These changes are helping our state combat teacher shortages in key licensure areas by incentivizing people through loan repayment and student teacher grant programs to choose high need specialties. These can be utilized at alternative prep programs as well. So Senate File 3229 will provide grants to new and expanding providers to help diversify our workforce and fill both regional and licensure shortage areas. And we hope after hearing from Dr. Kelly Dietrich, who is actually doing the work to get a new and innovative provider off the ground, you will be supportive of the bill. So thank you all for your consideration and time today. Happy to answer any questions, and thank you all for your public service to our state.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shaver. Ms. Dietrich, would you identify yourself for the record and begin your testimony?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks again for allowing me to speak today about the alternative licensure programming. I'm Dr. Kelly Dietrich. I'm a director of special education with Indigo Education. Indigo Education is a nonprofit organization. We've been around for about 20 years, and we provide special education services to public schools throughout Minnesota. Currently, we're serving about 65 charter schools in Minnesota, and there's 14 people on our team. We have about 200 years of combined experience in the field, supporting our teachers, including a cohort for teachers of color, new special education teachers, and school leaders. It's a pretty big scope of our work, but what we're finding is that we really have to hone in on two important goals in our organization, which is including that students with disabilities have high quality teachers, and that special education teachers have the support they need to either access those teacher education programs, and then once they're licensed, to stay in the field. Even though we've had special ed law since 1975, burnout in this field started in 1979. So it only took 4 years until people started leaving. Just a few quick stats for you. Our current system contributes to 40 to 50% of special ed teachers leaving the field in their first 5 years. The teacher rotation and our understaffing predicament nationally costs about $2.2 billion a year. And our students' needs aren't being met because we just don't have enough teachers to make that happen. As we've worked with teachers and students over the last 20 years, we see that there's quite an evolving landscape in our schools. There's more students with disabilities, there are more students of color, and there's more communities that are really just starting to support that integration of culture in our schools. But at the same time, we see fewer teachers of color and we see far fewer special educators. In our state alone, there are 7.28% teachers of color and Indigenous teachers, but 38% of our students are students of color or Indigenous students. And our special education teachers in Minnesota are even leaving at a higher rate, or we are coming into our field at a lower rate. So as we think about these things, and then we compound that with the COVID-19 pandemic and more teachers leaving the field, there's simply not enough special education teachers to serve our students. We currently have a staffing shortage that just isn't getting any better. And so as we think about what we can do in our field, we really want to reduce the barriers to post-secondary education that many of our young people have. We want to help them overcome, and other adults who are in our field, but not in those teaching positions. And some of these things that folks are up against that really limit their ability to attend a traditional program are things like personal finances or family finances, where they have to work and they can't get a student loan, or they can't take off a year to go to college. Sometimes it's first-year generational college students. They didn't even know they could go, or English as a second language being a huge barrier. And the thing that we're finding the most is that our traditional college programs, they just don't offer the continuous ongoing mentoring that new teachers need to stay in the field. And so Indigo Education is developing an alternate teacher preparation program to really support these needs. Our goal is to provide a more teacher education program focus with supports that are present linguistically and also culturally in a little bit more affordable way, so that we can hone in on the needs of those people who want to become special education teachers, but there's barriers for them. We want to close the gap between our teachers and our students. We want teachers that our students can see themselves in and who feel really supported by their administrators and by their licensure program. We'd like to partner not just with charter schools, but also districts throughout Minnesota who have this need to have more special education teachers in the field, but they just don't have a means to provide an alternate licensure program on their own. We're very committed to serving our students and increasing teacher education, as well as keeping our teachers in the field. That longevity is very important. And so because of this commitment, we support Senate File 3229. I'd invite you to ask any questions that you have about our alternate prep program. Right now, we're in the process of working with PELSB very closely. Something that's very important to us is that it's aligned to those standards, right? So we're not just creating a program that's willy-nilly out there that's not aligned to the requirements that every program in Minnesota has to align to. But we really want to open it up to more people who otherwise doesn't have the opportunity to become a teacher.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Ms. Dietrich. Members, do we have any questions for any of our testifiers? I'm not seeing any. I guess I want to thank our testifiers, especially you, Ms. Dietrich, for the work you're doing. I think we see these shortages in our workforce all over the place, and it is good to see people in their individual areas coming forward, trying to come up with solutions of ways we can address some of these shortages and encourage folks to get involved and get into those work areas. So it is my understanding that this bill has to go on to the Education, Finance, and Policy Committee. Senator Coleman, would you like to conclude with any remarks before we move your bill to pass?
Mr. Chair, thank you for the time today. I think as we all are well aware, we're hearing from our school districts that there is a mass teacher shortage out there, and it'll take a multi-pronged approach to address this. And I think this is one great way to do so. So I appreciate the time and thank you members for hearing this bill.
All right, thank you. With that, Senator Goggin, would you move Senate File 3229 to be recommended to pass and move to Education, Finance, and Policy?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
All right, motion to pass and move to Education, Finance, and Policy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. You're on your way to get Education, Finance, and Policy. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Senate File 2856. This is one of my bills. And this is a bill, members, one of the things we have in the state, in order for students to be eligible for state grants, the school must have a physical presence in Minnesota. And when we look at the world today and all of the different online education opportunities, and COVID has really exposed some of those needs and options that many students have. And this is a bill that would look to allow certain programs that have only an online presence for their students to be eligible for grants. And with that, I will turn it over to our testifiers. And I believe, do we want to start with Dr. Angie Besendorfer? Is that our?
That's
Please-
close enough.
Please identify yourself for the record, or,
Mr. Chair, we do have a slideshow. I don't know how you want to
oh, so.
pull that up.
Um,
I got it here. I plugged in here. What do you need me to do beyond that?
maybe if we can have one of our pages go up and see if we can get a screen share working.
I'm not plugging anything. So you can be logged in too.
While we're getting that working, are the two of you going to be presenting together?
Yes, essentially, yes.
All right,
One
basically,
at a time. I can go ahead and get started if you'd like.
if that will work, and then for both of you, just to identify yourselves when you begin your testimony, and we'll let you kind of work together off of that.
Okay, well, they'll get that started and get the PowerPoint, but I'm Dr. Angie Besendorfer. I'm the Regional Vice President for Western Governors University, and I'm pleased to be with you. So thank you. Chairman, we appreciate the time today to talk about this and appreciate Senator Rarick and his carrying of this bill as well. So want to just do a little bit of background on Western Governors University to start off with. So WGU is a private nonprofit university that is created by governors. So governors actually created a university not to compete with their public systems, but actually to complement it. And so what you'll learn a little bit about today within that is that we are really focused on a different type of learner. And so we're focused on adult learners. And so I just want to give you just a little bit of history of the university as we're getting this PowerPoint pulled up so that way you can follow along. But 25 years ago, we're celebrating our 25th anniversary as of January. The governors provided seed money to create a private nonprofit university that is online. And that was a really important difference at that time. However, the big difference that the governors came up with that is really important to us today is the fact that we use a competency-based learning model. And what that essentially means is that a course takes our students as long as it takes them. One of the governors came up with this idea because he was a pilot and he had a pilot school. And his point there was that if you are a pilot that's learning to be a pilot and you've flown with your dad for a long time, and you're having to sit through a certain number of hours, that you probably know some things. You probably could have graduated from that course a lot sooner. If you were me, on the other hand, and you didn't have that kind of learning in the background, you may need more hours than are required. And so with a competency-based approach, our students are able to prove what they know and learn the rest and graduate more quickly. And so the way that we do that is we use this model where everybody enrolls into a degree program. So we currently only accept full-time students. They enroll into a degree program in one of 4 areas. We have degrees in business, IT, health professions, and education. We offer bachelor's and master's degrees, but they're only in high workforce need areas. So we work with the business community to help define what are the kinds of key degrees that we need and what are the key skills and learnings of the competencies that should be known if you earn a degree in this specific area. And so with that, we're able to move through things more quickly. I'm proud to report that today WGU has 130,000 students nationwide. And that's a pretty significant feat when you consider that we're just an idea, just 25 years old. And so that's a really important component there to think about. We have 130,000 students, which is impressive and is the largest university in the nation for full-time equivalent students. However, more importantly, and a more point of pride for us is that we have 260,000 graduates. That includes almost 50,000 students who graduated last year. So we're really increasing the number of degreed workforce individuals across the nation. And we're doing that also in Minnesota. And so I will be able to give you some of those highlights that way. So I'm going to kind of jump through a few of the slides really quickly. I want to go back to that one right there. We do have some goals that I want to share with you that WGU has as far as very specific goals. We want our students to graduate on time, but not on our time, on their time. It's a personalized journey. Students start on the first day of any month and graduate literally any day of the year. And so our goal is to move them through. We also are working very importantly on equity issues. We focus in on underserved and underrepresented individuals. So our future is that we would have a 50% reduction in the attainment gaps by 2025. And we would have 40% of our student body be students of color by 2025. And we put those goals out there publicly to say, this is what we're really working on. The other thing that's really important that we strive for is to maximize salary gains and to minimize costs so that students are able to control that. So I've already said we have 130,000 students and 260,000 graduates, and you've got the 4 colleges that we move through. We do serve all 50 states. This is an important slide because it tells you a little bit about our student body, and that's why this is important to Minnesota, is that we serve adults. Our average age student nationwide is 38. We serve mostly working adults. 84% are working while they attend school full time. In addition to that, 32% are first generation. We have 22% are low income, so we're breaking poverty cycles. We have 29% currently students of color and 16% rural. We also have 13% military. And so we really are a different kind of university focused on different things, but these are all full-time students. In Minnesota, though, we currently have already 1,500 Minnesotans that are choosing to come to WGU. They're electing that WGU is the best option for them. They're very similar to the demographics that you saw nationally. However, the average age is a little bit lower of 35. And you can see there's some differences like a higher rural percentage. But in general, they mirror the demographics of our national system. And so that kind of gives you a little bit of feel for that. The other point I want to make is that we have 3,623 Minnesotans who are graduates of WGU already. So we're here, we're already your online university, and that's a really important thing to note. Minnesotans are choosing to come to WGU. The reasons they might be choosing is because we are workforce aligned. We actually use people in the real world to define the competencies for our degrees, and that's a really important thing. We're skills-based, which is critical as we move to a skills-based economy. The other things that I want to point out is I've talked about how we were pioneers in competency-based education. We're the only university in the nation that is fully competency-based. Every degree, every course is competency-based. And that's a real big differentiator for WGU. In addition, every student has a mentor. We've broken up the faculty role into different kinds of roles, but every student is provided one faculty member that is their guide. I refer to them as the cheerleader, the navigator, and the nag, and most students need all 3 at different points through their journey. And that mentor is really important. What we know about our student body is on average, they've thrown in the towel 3 times before finding WGU. And so this gives them an opportunity to make sure that they get across the finish line. We believe if we just enroll them and they get more college, we've actually harmed them because they likely have more debt. The other thing that's really important is that WGU being online is also time and place agnostic. Students can turn in their tests whenever, they can take their test whenever, they're in charge. And they do that and they want to move more quickly because of our low flat pricing. For 6 months of education, you pay about $3,800, all you can learn as fast as you can go. And the final thing is it's working. What we know is a WGU graduate is earning about $21,000 more within 4 years of graduating, which is double the national average. That our debt rate default rate is way lower, that our 6-year graduation rate is higher when we compare with things, and that they're satisfied customers and satisfied employers. And so that's the gist of this slide. And the final thing that I'll say is about accreditation. We are regionally accredited through the Northwest Commission. And so that's an important piece. We have a lot of other national accreditations as well, and those are important and significant. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Patrick Baker.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Angie. So Patrick Baker, I get to serve as our government relations director for WGU here in the Midwest. Happen to be based in Mankato, so it's great to be back up in St. Paul today. I'm going to spend just a little bit of time talking about how WGU aligns with some of the policy goals that the state has. And then we do have 2 testifiers for you, one a current student at WGU and one a alumni of WGU that are Minnesota residents. So I won't read this kind of word for word here, but basically our Office of Higher Education Minnesota, some of their latest reports says that the state is 100,000 degrees short of hitting the 70% attainment goal by 2025. And as the department rightfully calls out, the state needs to have a concerted effort to enroll adults with no college experience and re-engage adults with some college but no credential if the state is going to have any sort of realistic shot of hitting that 70% attainment goal. What this slide is telling you is that, unfortunately, for adult learners, we are going the wrong direction. And so for our 4-year, both public and private universities in Minnesota, the number of adults, so that's 25 and over, enrolling in our university systems today is lower than it was 10 years ago. At the same time, the number of Minnesotans now with some college, no degree, is now over 560,000. So there is a significant pool of Minnesotans, as Angie said, that have stopped out for whatever reason. They have tried the traditional pathway, and we need to have all hands on deck, all resources to get them back re-engaged in their degree program to get them to degree completion. So WGU is pretty well positioned to do that. As Angie said, we were founded by 19 governors. These 19 governors didn't create a university to come in and take out their public university systems. They created a university to complement and supplement what their states were already doing and doing really well. You'll see that, in Minnesota's case, about 87% of our students enrolled at in-state public and private universities are under the age of 25, right? That's the model, that's how it's been, and that has certainly worked well for us. WGU took a different approach, and we have, for that reason, a different student body. Our student body is almost 90% over the age of 25. And so that's where we differentiate ourselves from more traditional models of higher education. We were built to serve adult learners, and that's what we still focus on today. So our ask, as Chair Rarick pointed out, this bill before you does it very simply creates a definition that would allow WGU students living in Minnesota, choosing to attend WGU, to access Minnesota state financial aid programs that they as residents and taxpayers pay into. It would require that WGU have the same level of oversight and regulation and registration requirements as every other private university, nonprofit university in the state of Minnesota. So we're not wiggling our way out of anything. Just simply asking our students to have that opportunity. So beyond the financial aid component, right? Our university is founded by states for states, so we are ready, willing, and able to partner with the state, partner with this committee to remove barriers to opportunity for students and provide pathways to opportunity for our neighbors here in Minnesota. And so with that, I'm happy to introduce our testifiers here today. I think we will start with Kate Sexton. given the conversation we had the last bill about the teacher shortage, Kate is currently a student in our teachers college, getting her degree in special education at WGU, and happens to reside in Mankato. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and we will go to Kate Sexton.
Thank you very much. Ms. Sexton, will you identify yourself for the record and begin your testimony, please?
Yes, my name is Kate Sexton, and I am a current WGU student. I am a mom to 3 sons, 13, 16, and 19 years old. I am employed through Mankato Public Schools and have worked with teens with special needs at Mankato West ever since starting 10 years ago. Prior to getting married and having kids, I did attend college. I went to Martin Luther College to get my bachelor's in early education. My parents did use FAFSA, for which I did get some financial help. One of my jobs during those first years in college led me to change paths. I switched to pursue a career in nursing. I attended Hennepin Technical College and South Central College. Upon finishing school, yet prior to taking my boards test, I became engaged, married, and pregnant, all within 1 year. My instructor told my class that whatever we did, do not take the boards when you have a major life event happening. I took her words seriously and then slowly drifted away from wanting to become a nurse. My new focus the next few years was raising a family. I stayed home with the boys until the youngest was 3. At this time, I got a position as a paraprofessional in the school district. During a session of the extended school year program, a supervisor approached me. She had asked if I had ever thought about going back to school. She was the one who recruited me and opened my eyes to new opportunity. In the fall, the search for a college program began. Things I knew was that I was a mom to young kids. My husband and I were both working, and the college had to be flexible and affordable. I narrowed my choices down to Grand Canyon University in Arizona and WGU. In the end, I chose WGU because they had a special education only program. I have been a WGU student since January of 2019. The things I enjoy most about WGU are the people. I feel more cared about through WGU than I did in a brick and mortar school. They know me by name. Every student is assigned a mentor. My mentor was my personal cheerleader who gave me the confidence and encouragement I needed as I got started. Although I only interact with each course instructor for about 1 month period, all of the instructors from WGU have shown they care. They genuinely want you to succeed. It feels good to know that you have support out there. It gives you the drive to keep going. Financially, WGU is an affordable option. I love how WGU can offer a lower cost to their students. As an adult student with many expenses, financial aid made this schooling possible for me. Without the grants and financial aid, I would have not taken this leap. As of today, I'm in my 3rd year. I am a student in the Teachers College. One of WGU's requirements is that their students devote 100% to student teaching. That means no working during this time. If students aren't working, they're not getting paid. For students in their 2nd career path, that makes it very difficult financially. If I had the ability to receive more grants through my home state, that would make my educational path much easier. Having access to the Minnesota grant program as a WGU student would be a wonderful blessing for all current and future WGU students from our state of Minnesota. Thank you for the opportunity to share my story with you today. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sexton. And I believe our next testifier is Ms. Stephanie Struchik. Is that halfway close?
I think we're somewhere in the ballpark. I'll let Stephanie pronounce her last name for us. Oh, Stephanie, I think you're on mute.
It's Struzik, so you're very close. So my name is Stephanie Struzik, and thank you for hearing me out today and getting to learn a little bit more about my school. I work as an accountant at United Healthcare. I graduated from Edina High School in 2007 and attended Arizona State from 2007 to 2010. I didn't get into the U of M or UMD, so I decided to go where I was accepted after high school. I took out private loans for my education, and in 2010, the financial crisis hit my family pretty hard. I moved back home without completing my degree and just felt really lost. After that, I worked in the service industry for 6 years and networked my way into an office administrator position. I realized to achieve my financial goals, a bachelor's degree was necessary. I chose WGU initially because I am paying about $500 a month for my student loans from when I first pursued a degree and did not want to add more to debt to that bucket. I received a scholarship through WGU as well as a private grant through a women's organization, and these combined covered a third of the cost of my education. WGU's flexible competency-based model allowed me to excel in school. I was able to work full-time while attending. My mentor helped me stay on track, and this accountability program was a big key to my success. I completed my degree in just under a year and a half. To speak to the quality of the education, I often look back at my intermediate accounting notes for work. I would have never gotten my degree if it wasn't for a self-paced program catered towards working adults like WGU. There are many other people in the same situation I was in, dreaming of a fulfilling career, hoping to overcome the barrier of living paycheck to paycheck, and knowing if given the opportunity, these goals can be achieved. WGU changed my life. Future students having access to state financial aid programs as described in Senate File 2856 will in turn change Minnesotans' lives for the better as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Do we have any final comments from these two
For
testifiers?
us, happy to stand for any questions.
All right, before we go to the department members, do we have any questions for this group of testifiers? Senator Putnam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Struzik and Ms. Sexton for your testimony. It was both evocative and moving, and it's interesting. I think that we can all agree that the mission of Western Governors Mission University is a very important one, and that we're all committed to everything that's going on there. I do have a ton of questions, though, actually, because I'm curious and I'm a nerd, and I'm myself a faculty member. So the model that you're adopting is one I have some questions about. And Mr. Baker and you and I have visited about this before, but those questions still resonate in the back of my head. And the first is, so what are the degrees that you offer? Are they BAs? Are they BSs? Are they AAs? What are the actual degrees that you offer?
So we offer bachelor's of science and then we offer master's degrees.
Senator Putnam, follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Vice President Desdorf, you mentioned, I think, that you are the only exclusively competency-based education in the country. So this bill isn't really about a category, it's about your specific institution. Because you're the only one that does it?
Yep, that's correct. And a lot of that is about your preference, right? It's you can open it as broadly as you want to in terms of what those institutions would look like.
But I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Baker.
Yeah, no, I just said, yes, it was intentionally deliberately drawn that way. But we want to try to narrow and certainly up to the legislature if you wanted to broaden that.
Thank you, Mr. Baker and Mr. Chair. If I can,
Senator Putnam.
so what you're saying is that there currently are no other institutions like this, so this bill actually is just specifically for you.
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Baker. I'm also a little bit interested in the faculty model, the faculty compensation model. You know, how faculty are compensated and what their workload would be. And it was great to hear from Ms. Sexton about how valued she felt by her faculty. That's an incredibly important dimension of any post-secondary education. What's the relationship between your competence? I guess there's two questions here. One is just in general, your faculty compensation model and workload. And maybe also a curiosity about where those faculty tend to be located. And secondly, I'm interested in, actually, why don't we just deal with that one first, if that's okay? It's kind of a big question.
It is. So we mentioned the role of mentor. And so that's one of the roles. We've taken the job of professor and we've really broken it into 4 large buckets. So if you think about 4 large roles, so one is those people who are developing the programs and they develop the online learning, they're experts in assessment, they're experts in what should online learning look like? They're the program development team. We have then the group called program mentors that we've talked about a lot today. We also have course instructors who are the folks who love their content. They work one-on-one with students or in cohorts or in groups, and they help each student as they're in a course. And then we have a group of faculty called evaluators, and they do all the grading and determine whether a student is competent or not yet competent. All of those faculty roles meet the accreditation requirements. So you can think about like accredited faculty members, even though we've divided that out a little bit differently. We do compensate our faculty based on about the middle range when you look at higher education faculty roles and what the costs are. I mean, we're a nonprofit university, and so we pretty much hover in that middle range of faculty salaries and compensations across the nation.
May I ask a
Senator
follow-up,
Putnam.
Mr. Chair? Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Besendorf, not just exclusively in terms of the amount in compensation, but what are they compensated for? So if you have basically 4 different buckets of faculty, and that's a great way to carry faculty, by the way, is in a bucket. If you've got these 4 different buckets of faculty, and one of them is focused perhaps on advising, another might be doing instruction, another might be doing evaluation, how is that structured in terms of compensation, in terms of time investment and the compensation itself?
Happy to jump into that a little bit more. So our faculty are really different in the sense that we're not a research institution, so we're about student serving. And so our faculty are expected to be engaged many more hours than most typical faculty positions. So they're different based on what kinds of things. So those program development faculty, they're not an hourly employee, they're not that way, but they're expected to work essentially a 40-hour-a-week job, kind of that way with their salary. The program mentors have a caseload that varies based on the degree program and the success and how much support students need. So we know that from one degree to another, there may be more or less, like a master's degree might need less student support than a bachelor's degree student. And so those course loads are there, but they're based on, their salaries and their compensations are based on those kinds of things, but they're expected again to be working essentially 40 hours a week or more. Most of our faculty would probably tell you more. The same with the course instructors. They're engaged with students. They're expected to be engaged. They're online. They're able to be, to have that. They have office hours, but it's much more than office hours for those kinds of situations. And then the evaluators has been historically the only place we hired anyone part-time. And so they're more of an hourly based pay if they're part-time, and then they're contracted for a certain number of hours based on that.
Thank you, Dr. Besendorf. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Putnam. That's good. Okay, Senator Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You've got the 4 areas of colleges that you offer. Could you go into each one and talk about just briefly the degrees that are offered there, please?
Happy to do that. And I do have some brochures that I can provide to you as well. So the College of Health, our biggest program in the College of Health is RN to BSN. So that's an important place. We know that BSN prepared nurses provide better care for patients. And so hospitals are very interested in helping their employees move and upskill to that. We also have health informatics, health services coordination. We have nurse education. So that's a high need area. We need more nurse educators so that we can have more nurses. We also offer a master's in nursing, leadership management, nursing informatics, and at the master's level, and even healthcare leadership. And then we have some nurse practitioner programs within the College of Health as well, including one that we just launched this month that is for psychiatric nurse practitioner, particularly to address the issues of rural healthcare and the fact that there's a lack of psychiatric support in rural areas. And so what you'll find with WGU degrees is we're really looking at what are the workforce needs and what are the needs that are out there, and that's how we drive that. So that's the College of Health. The College of Business, it's your pretty general business kinds of things: business management, healthcare management, HR management, IT management, marketing and accounting are the big main programs. We also have an MBA. We have a master's in information technology management, a master's in healthcare management, a master's in healthcare and leadership and accounting. If you go to the website at wgu.edu, there's a few others, but those are the major ones. In the Teachers College, it's really interesting. We focus on licensure in high need areas. So we're going to have special education, STEM. WGU actually provides about 14% of all the STEM teachers in the nation right now. And so that's a really significant, important piece that we need. And we also offer elementary education, and then the math and science, as I mentioned, and special ed. And then at the post-baccalaureate degree, we offer a Master's of Arts in Teaching that is for, you've already got a bachelor's degree, but you can become a licensed teacher by having the Master's of Arts. And then we offer the master's degrees in leadership, curriculum instruction, instructional design, those kinds of things for already licensed teachers so that they can move up and grow within the profession. And then in the College of Information Technology, we have a wide variety of degrees that are offered there as well. What I'll tell you about our College of IT is that because we use workforce standards for our degree programs, that if you're in a course that would lead towards a certification, like a CompTIA certification, then that's included as your summative assessment and it's included at no extra cost. So many of our College of IT degrees, you may graduate with multiple certifications as well. So the degree programs that I would highlight there for the College of IT would be Cloud and Systems Administration, Computer Science, Cybersecurity is a huge area for us, Information Technology, Data Management and Data Analytics, which is another really important area, Software Development is another area, and then the Masters in Cybersecurity, the Masters in Data Analytics, and the Masters in Information Technology Management. So those are the main pieces.
Thank you, Senator Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the healthcare fields and the teacher colleges, there are licensing requirements. Do you have any data on your graduates and they're obtaining those passing state or national boards?
I do. For the healthcare area, we offer a pre-licensure program, but only in some states, not currently in Minnesota, but our NCLEX pass rate is significantly above the national average. And in one of our states, it's even been 100%. So, I mean, it's a high quality program. For teacher licensure, we also, we do things a little bit differently in our teacher licensure program, whereas in, like when I graduated as a teacher, I became a graduate and then I had to go pass that test to become licensed, right? At WGU, we still nurture our students through that licensure piece. So we're not going to graduate them until they pass that test so that they're going to get the support. So that's part of the program that we have. So we have really great results with that because we're providing them the support as they're moving through that.
Thank you.
Any follow-up, Senator Clausen? And I do not see any other questions. With that, I see we have some folks from the Department of Higher Education. Does Ms. Talbot or Ms. Oliver wish to testify on the bill?
Yes, Chair Rarick and committee members. For the record, my name is Nikki Oliver. I'm the Director of Grants and Government Relations for the Minnesota Office of Higher Education. And committee members, you should have received a letter from our commissioner a little while ago addressing this bill itself. For the public, if you don't mind, I'll read some of the concerns the agency has regarding the bill. At this time, the agency is not supportive of the bill for several reasons. And we've been in conversations with WGU in particular regarding this proposal, and our position has not changed since 2019 and beyond. Some of the concerns the agency has regarding the bill itself is it's too broad in areas and lacks clarity as it relates to Minnesota law and industry standards. The term online is not specific, and it's unclear whether institutions are exclusively online or a percentage of classes are offered online. And given the COVID pandemic, many institutions have dramatically expanded their online offerings, which would mean that significantly more out-of-state institutions would become eligible to participate in Minnesota state financial aid programs, depending on how that term is defined. In addition, regionally accredited is outdated and no longer a distinct classification. And OHE would need to determine a more meaningful classification for assessing a program quality under this bill. At the same time, the bill is too narrow in the scope for eligible institutions. And I think Senator Putnam, through his questioning, kind of alluded to that this bill would essentially create a monopoly by WGU. Additional concerns are within the equitable implementation would be open, excuse me, to all state financial aid to out-of-state providers to ensure equitable access to all Minnesota residents in CBE programs. OHE would need to include all public, private, nonprofit, and private for-profit institution offering online CBE programs or credit for prior learning across the nation, and that will have a significant financial impact. Lastly, there are other state programs and laws that are parallel to our statute language. specifically deeds requirement for eligible training providers list ETPL under the state's Workforce Initiative and Opportunity Act WIOA plan from Deeds Minnesota eligible training provider list and WIOA certification handbook out of state training providers. Minnesota's ETPL only lists training providers who are located in Minnesota. So like making a change like this puts us out of parallel with other state program policies that really rely on each other. So currently the office is not supportive of this bill or its change. I just would also like to note that there are several hundreds of CBE offerings in the state with in-state institutions, including Minnesota State. And from the data that I understand, there are students that do enroll in state out-of-state institutions. So that is also not something unique that I think WGU had mentioned was unique to them. We also have Betsy Talbot on the line. She's our manager of licensing and registration if there's more complex questions that the committee might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oliver. You mentioned that you've been working with WGU. You've seen the language of their bill. When have you given them written, and expressed to them what your concerns are so that they were able to address, and have you tried to help address ways to make the bill better?
Sorry. Chair Rarick, committee members, Betsy Talbot may be able to pinpoint exact dates. We've had several meetings expressing our concerns with WGU. We recently got some of this bill language, not all of it, I don't believe, early January. And then there were some other iterations of the bill, which we did provide feedback, but the exact dates I do not have.
Ms. Talbot, do you have any information to add?
Mr. Chair, thank you. This is Betsy Talbot from the Minnesota Office of Higher Education. We've been providing language feedback since the summer of 2019 on various forms. I did not provide specific feedback for this bill because I'm still trying to work with various agencies, including the department, to figure out if there are definitions for these terms, including like and whether other institutions would meet the definition. For example, like competency-based education. There's no way for the office to search for competency-based education schools or programs. I did reach out to a board member for the National Association, and they're supposed to be getting back to me, but they also confirmed there's no list. And we did provide them feedback about the regional accreditation issue in January when they brought us the language. And we have not provided feedback yet directly to them about the definition of online and how we would define it and in practice use that term. But really, it's just been a struggle for our office to find good resources to help us determine the definition of these terms, which institutions could or may qualify for this new language. And until we could get that information, we didn't feel like it was appropriate to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Talbot. I guess I'm a little concerned. The first that I got any type of notice on issues with this was yesterday morning. And the idea that it's taken this long to get any type of input or things addressed, I find concerning. It seems to me like people are dragging their feet, just don't want to help out at all. Members, I have an A1 amendment that we have put together over the course of 24 hours to address these concerns, and we would get those passed out and we will get that sent out. And I don't know if this addresses everything exactly the way the agency would like, but I'm at a point where with different state agencies, the way they drag things out, you can look this over, but we're gonna adopt this amendment onto the bill. I believe it addresses the concerns that you brought forward in a way that should have been done a long, long time ago. So we'll give people some time to look over it, but around the terms that they questioned, I believe this gets to a point where it does define those terms. So members, does anyone have any questions for me as you look over the A1 amendment? Senator Goggin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So one of the question I have on this is the department brought up that we're creating a monopoly. Does this address that concern that they have?
Thank you, Senator Goggin. I do not believe this addresses that, but I don't believe, I did not agree with that assessment of the original bill that there was a monopoly. It was providing like a definition for any online program to be able to do. It was not going to be just this one. We were addressing issues. We did not want it to be too broad, just so that the fly-by-night operation cannot come in and start and cause some of the problems that we're well aware of from other schools that have come and gone in this state and caused problems. So the original bill was drafted in such a way to keep it pretty tight so that we would have good control over which programs would be able to get in this, but it would not be limited to just Western governors.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Putnam, and then.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On to that question, the one thing I still, and I'm again procedurally not sure if this is the right place for me to raise this concern, is line 4 offers exclusively competency-based education. Because that does, as we just heard, restrict it to just this one individual institution. So is there, Mr. Chair, may I ask a question of the testifiers? Dr. Bessendorfer, we said that you were the only one who is doing this now. Is there a sense in which there are more institutions that will eventually do this? Is a big part of my question. But the other part is that I'm not entirely sure why that has to be part of this bill. If the concern, as I understood it initially from my conversations with you, Mr. Baker, was that the notion of a brick and mortar building is archaic and unnecessary, I'm 100% with you. But then why then do we add in this other restriction on exclusively competency-based education? I hope you understand my question is completely sincere. I just genuinely want to know.
So I think the answer there is trying to strike the right balance of limited, of making sure that we're not letting every, university in the country come into the state of Minnesota, because there is a fiscal impact there, right? And so we are, so we have been trying to engage with the department for some period of time to figure out what is the language, right, that accomplishes what we all want to try to accomplish, which is ultimately allowing Minnesota residents who are adult learners who need opportunities or pathways to opportunity to access Minnesota State Grant Program. And so we are open to any suggestions for how to best do that. This was our attempt to keep the bill limited in scope and address what we knew was a really high quality population of students in terms of in our state attending a high quality institution. But we're not intending to be exclusive, but we understand that there is a certain fiscal reality that you can't serve every single, university in the country under the current funding situation with Minnesota State Grant Program.
And what I would add about the exclusivity of competency-based, we're actually helping others. So at WGU, we really believe that we've kind of developed a system that works, that it is valid and it's reliable and it's working for students. And so we have an organization within WGU that's called WGU Labs that is assisting other institutions of higher ed to learn how to do competency-based education. So we do believe that there are going to be more, that this is the way of the future, that owning the fact that learning should be measured by learning, not by time, is the way that we need to be doing things, that we need to honor the fact that their learners have different journeys, and that we can not necessarily keep everybody at the same pace in higher ed, that we really need to recognize individual differences.
And
thank you, Mr. Chair.
My perspective on this as well, because this was an online program instead of in person, and so many like K-12 programs that are online, that are competency-based. We figured, in my understanding too, and speaking with folks, that the competency-based, because it's online, was a good to keep in there, and that others would probably follow that model. But I guess We could be open, but again, we wanted to keep this tight instead of doing something that is going to have constraints around it so that somebody doesn't come in and cause problems with students. Yeah, you have a follow-up?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Clausen.
Mr. Chair, I was just going to suggest in this White kind of go through the. amendment, if we
Thank you
could.
very much.
Okay.
Ms. White.
Sorry, Mr. Okay, let's test this again. Okay, Mr. Chair and members, Joan White with Senate Council. I'll go through the A1 amendment. This addresses concerns that we received from OHI yesterday. It allows a university that is one, a nonprofit entity as defined in the Internal Revenue Code. Two, accredited by an institutional accreditor, which is the Northwest Commission on Colleges and Universities. Line 1.7 provides online education. I looked through the chapter 136A, and actually the term that's used in that chapter is online computer-based education. So if the department needs that added to clarify what we need, I can do that. Line 1.8 offers exclusively competency-based education. We've talked about that quite a bit. And line 1.9, as determined by the office, meets the requirements of paragraph B, which are the requirements imposed on private institutions. Also, the the Office of Higher Education was not sure, there's not a definition for competency-based education. So there's a definition for that term for purposes of this clause in the amendment also.
Thank you, Ms. White, and especially thank you for the quick turnaround on this one. Senator Clausen. Members, do we have any other questions on the A1 amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. A1 amendment is adopted. To the bill as amended, are there any other questions? Seeing none, I think we've had a good discussion. I don't need to make any closing comments. So we will lay this bill over as amended for possible inclusion. Before we get to the next bill, I got a message from Chair Tomassoni. I let Senator Coleman off. It was her first time in front of this committee, as she well noted, and she failed to bring us treats. So we will we will have to get after her.
So, Mr. Chair, are we going to reconsider her bill?
That is very possible. We may have to bring it back on the floor. So, all right. The next bill before us is going to be Senate File 2894. It is Senator Tomassoni's bill. I will present that. This is a pretty simple bill. When we calculate student aid, it is calculated at a 50% requirement for the student or their family to pay. This bill would reduce that calculation to 46%. So we will go straight. I'm going to see, do we still have Mr. Paul Pribineau online, or did he have to leave?
Mr. Chair, President Pribineau had to leave. He had a 2 o'clock appointment. He could not adjust. I'd be happy to start, and then President Barbara McDonald from St. Scholastica is here, and we have some students to testify.
All right, we apologize for not getting to that soon enough, but Mr. Sikvanek, please identify yourself and begin the testimony.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, I'm Paul Sirkvenik, and I serve as president of the Minnesota Private College Council. In order to ensure that there it's time for our president and students to testify. I've submitted written testimony in support of this bill, and I'll be available to the committee to answer questions either at this hearing or afterwards. I simply want to thank you, Senator Rarick, for presenting this bill today. And I want to especially express our deep thanks to Senator Tomassoni, both personally and on behalf of the students at our 17 colleges and universities, for once again this year being the chief author of this bill that increases financial aid provided to high-need students through the Minnesota State Grant Program. We deeply appreciate and are grateful for your commitment to the educational opportunities and educational success of students who come from less fortunate, less privileged backgrounds. So thank you, Senator Tomassoni. That's all I have, Mr. Chair, and be happy to pass the microphone to President McDonald.
All right, President McDonald, please introduce yourself and begin your testimony.
Thank you, Chair Rarick and members of the committee for this opportunity to testify. My camera is not able to turn on unless I think you folks do that on your end, but if that can happen, that would be great. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on the importance of the state grant in the lives of our students. The Minnesota State Grant Program, as you know, makes colleges more affordable for low and middle income families at private and public colleges throughout our great state here. At our institution, the College of St. Scholastica, located in Duluth, we serve approximately 3,500 students. Our formal opening dates back to 110 years, with a mission committed to provide educational opportunities for those who might not otherwise have access. And today, we continue to serve a very diverse population of learners and a high number of students with exceptional need. I'd like to provide a snapshot of our students for you. Nearly 80% of our students are from Minnesota and 27% are first-generation students, meaning their parents or guardians didn't graduate from a four-year institution. And some might find it surprising too that 37% plus of our students' families have incomes of about or less than $50,000 a year. And a third of our undergraduates, about 900 students, receive the state grants. And for these students, this support is critical to their ability to complete their education. As you know, the pandemic has affected many families financially and also reduced the availability of student jobs and internships. And so this makes the state grant ever so important in the affordability equation. We're also concerned about the impact the pandemic has had on families of low-income students of color who have struggled also to continue their education. So at St. Scholastica, affordability is a key priority for us and a partnership and promise we have made to our students to do everything we can to support their educational journey. So what does this impact look like for students? Every year I hear from our students who are positively and profoundly impacted by the state grant. This past week, I had a conversation with Rose, a very promising student who graduated from Coleraine High School on the Iron Range and whose dream it was to come to St. Scholastica. Rose, as a first-generation student whose family has financial challenges, she knew this would only be possible if she had financial aid to support her journey. So her success was very much tied to the support of the state grant. Let me tell you about Rose. She has developed into an exceptional leader on campus. She's currently a rising senior, one who will definitely live out our mission of serving and transforming the world. And as a rising senior, she serves as the vice president of the Student Senate here on campus, is the Student Senate trustee on the college's board, and has inspired so many other students who are just like her, first generation, economically disadvantaged, but holding tightly to their educational aspirations. And eventually, when Rose graduates this spring, she'll go on to live and work in Minnesota, just as 70% of our graduates choose to do. I also think it's important to celebrate how the state grant impacts our workforce by way of our students' success. St. Scholastica plays a significant role in the workforce pipeline, particularly in the healthcare arena at all levels. Over 60% of our students are headed into healthcare professions, a sector of our state's economy that is hurting significantly for workers. We are constantly hearing from our healthcare providers, such as the Essentia System, St. Luke's, the Fairview System, and others across the state, how critical our graduates are at all levels of their healthcare organizations. Our mission is strongly focused on diversifying the workforce with the very students who rely on the state grant to complete their education. The return on this investment is overwhelmingly positive. Our institution ranks at the top for economic mobility. Our student default rates are one of the lowest in the state. What this means is that our graduates can contribute not only positively to the economy, but also answer the call to work in industries that are in dire need of qualified workers, CNAs, nurses, physician assistants, therapists, mental health workers, etc. So the new state grant investments can make a huge difference for these students. The benefits would be long-lasting, impacting not only today's students, but future generations and their families. Put simply, these funds enable our students to attend college, earn a degree, secure a good paying job, and achieve bright, hopeful futures for our state. At a time of critical work shortages in key areas, providing support for the state grant, I think, is an important and very timely investment, and one that will pay dividends to our state's future economy and strong workforce. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Senators Tomassoni and Senator Rarick, for listening to my comments today and the chance to share the impact of the state grant.
Thank you for your testimony. I believe next up on our list, we have a student, Ms. Stephanie Young.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, Chair and members. Thank you for this amazing opportunity to testify today. My name is Stephanie Young, and I'm originally from Fairmont, Minnesota, and I'm a proud junior here at Winona State University. I am currently majoring in social work and minoring in child advocacy studies. And a little background for me. When I was younger, I came from a low-income family of 7. I was always causing mischief and problems, trying to stand out and make a name for myself. But of course, it was always in the wrong ways. I consistently got bad grades and was at the bottom of my class, so I never saw myself ever going, let alone having the chance to go to college. My family was poor, so having money to pay for college was close to non-existent. I had to work to get the things that I wanted because I didn't want to burden my parents with the extra costs. I currently work 2 to sometimes even 3 jobs on top of being a full-time student here at Winona State. My jobs consist of working as a certified nursing assistant for Winona Health Hospital, then working when I go back home to my hometown to an assisted memory care nursing home facility. And lastly, I work here for TRIO as a student lead. Now I am in my 3rd year of college and set to graduate in the class of 2023. And here I made a new name for myself. After having graduated college with my bachelor's degree in social work, I want to further my career going into graduate school to pursue a career towards a master's in clinical social work, and with a focus on working with children or on the mental health spectrum. And I am here today on behalf of TRIO program at Winona State University, where I have been actively a part of TRIO ever since 8th grade, where then I became a member of Educational Talent Search, which is a sister program to TRIO that gives high school students the opportunity and understanding to continue into higher education. I came here to ask for your support and invest into the state grant program and reduce the current assigned student responsibility from only 50% to 46%. As a first-generation student and coming from a low-income family, and now my mother and I, this chance to me would mean not having to stress about picking up extra shifts, but instead be able to put more focus into my education. I also wouldn't have to think about cutting my budget down to financially afford groceries or other basic needs, or even having my mother worry about me having to drop out of college because of the increased cost of tuition. This state grant is critical to my education, and I hope you all take the time to invest in not only my future, but for everyone who is a part of TRIO across the state of Minnesota. I want to thank you all for taking the time to learn a little bit about myself and my journey to where I am here today. I wouldn't be where I am without the help of TRIO and being a recipient of the Minnesota State Grant and the Pell Grant. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Our next student testifier is Tavares Cheeks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Devaris Cheeks. I am an undergraduate student at Concordia University in St. Paul, otherwise known as CSP. I'm originally from Aurora, Illinois, and I'm currently a junior that is studying public relations with a double minor in business management and marketing. I'm also currently an advocacy intern for Goodwill Easter Seals, Minnesota, and I provide insight and assistance with legislative and public policy work. I'm testifying today in my role as a student leader at Concordia St. Paul and on behalf of our state grant recipients. Throughout my 3 years, I have been recognized as a student leader on Concordia's campus, leading a variety of clubs and organizations. Here are some of the following roles that I currently hold. I am a Division II football player who is on the leadership council for the football team. I am the president of the Black Student Union. I am the vice president of our Student Senate Relations and Affairs. I am a national representative of the Northern Sun Intercollegiate Conference, and I am the president of CSP's Student Athlete Advisory Committee. I lead discipleship groups, mental health groups, table talks, and other areas that directly impact our student body. And I'm also a tour guide, and I'm asked to put CSP's best foot forward when inviting prospective students onto our campus. Many people look at me as the face of CSP, and when asked when I came to Concordia out of all places, my response is always the same. Financial affordability and opportunities for growth. I wanted a school with smaller class sizes and the accessibility to build relationships with professors, my peers, and the entire campus community. And that is exactly what CSP offers. I also come from a low-income, single-parent household, and I had a big financial barrier that limited my opportunities for college selection. Where I come from, if it isn't for sports, most people do not make it out of the situations they are brought up in. And transparently, many of these folks end up in jail or dead just because they never had the proper outlets or the necessary funds to make it out of these circumstances. Concordia has exposed me to a variety of students in-state and out-of-state that relate to the financial barrier that high school graduates face all over the country. The state grant is a crucial asset to why students like myself can pursue post-secondary education with comfort, ease, and accessibility to come for some of the opportunities that I have stated previously. Many of the students that I get to work with and see transform throughout the years would not even be able to register for classes or enjoy the college experience if it wasn't for these funds that are allocated to the state grant. I've had the privilege to connect with so many students that are first-generation students or students that have transferred from another university or grew up in similar situations as myself, and we all have a common gratitude for the affordability of our school. Over 800 students currently receive the state grant at my school, and with your continued effort and support, I hope that that number continues to increase and more student leaders and young impact makers can make generational strides throughout our campus community and throughout the state of Minnesota. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you, Mr. Cheeks. We really appreciate your testimony, and either you found a way to get more than 24 hours in a day or you just don't sleep. Our next student testifier is Ms. Ilhan Ahmed.
Hi, Sir Chair and members, thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Ilhan Ahmed, and I'm a senior at Augsburg University, majoring in biology and minor in psychology. I was raised in Fargo, North Dakota, and moved to Minnesota in 2009. I went to Hidden Oaks Middle School and Prior Lake High School. I spent most of my life surrounded by people who didn't look like me or understand my religious or cultural practices. And it wasn't until high school that I met a group of POC students who helped me create an equity and diversity club at our school. Then I came to Augsburg University, an institution that not only valued students' educational needs, but welcomed their difference as well. During my time here, I joined multiple student organizations like Muslim Student Association, STEM peer mentoring, and I even became the president of Pan-African Student Union this year. I was offered so many opportunities like working in the admissions office as a tour guide and as an Augie ambassador. And it wasn't until TRIO SSS, and it was thanks to TRIO SSS that I was able to develop a degree plan and receive the academic support I needed in order to complete my 4 years at Augsburg. Because of the Minnesota State Grant, I was able to not only pursue a bachelor's degree, but I had access to services like undergrad research and grad opportunities, which provided me with hands-on experience with genetic engineering during summer research. I even became an AugSTEM scholar, which opened a lot of new doors and opportunities for me. I've learned so many things during my 4 years here at Augsburg. I gained skills like leadership, communication, critical thinking, mindfulness, and acceptance. Because of the Minnesota State Grant, I get to treasure these experiences, the skills I've gained, and the skills I've gained. I would not have been able to attend a four-year college and pursue my passion for medicine if it had not been for the Minnesota State Grant. Therefore, I hope you continue to increase funding for the future Minnesota students. If I had an increase in funding from the Minnesota State Grant, the level of stress and uncertainty that came with financial instability would have been reduced. This would have allowed me to concentrate more on my studies and degree rather than looking for additional ways to help me pay for tuition. That's why it is crucial you consider increasing funding for students like me who cannot afford to attend a four-year university. The Minnesota State Grant helped me build a future that I am proud of. After graduation, I plan on furthering my education by applying for future research opportunities and one day applying for medical school. Thank you all for taking the time to hear my story and for making my passion and goals a reality. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony, and to all three of our student testifiers. Not only does it sound like you have amazing resumes already, but sure sounds like you're going to be wonderful leaders in the future. Mr. Cirkvanek, anything else that you want to close up with before we go to questions?
Mr. Chair, recognizing the time is late, I will just be ready to answer questions if people have any.
Members, any questions? I am not seeing any. Ms. Grunewald, could you give us a quick rundown on the financials of the bill?
Yes, Mr. Chair and members, can you hear me all right? All right. So the fiscal note on Senate File 2894, with the change in the student assigned responsibility of 50% to 46%, the Office of Higher Education used the award parameters in law as of February 15th, 2022 to complete the fiscal note estimate. And for fiscal year 2023, there's an estimated cost of $36.98 million. And that includes, or that does not include $5 million of absorbed costs by the Office of Higher Ed. And then the ongoing cost in the tails be $45.78 million in fiscal year 24 and the same amount in fiscal year 25. And then I'll also mention that with this change, there's an increase for the grants of $635. So the average state grant award would be $3,848.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions on the financials of the bill at this time?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Cirkvanek.
Maybe I could just add one fact that I think is always on senators' minds. This bill, as Ms. Grunwald said, the average grant will increase by $635. But for a full-time low-income student, the increase will be between $670 and $1,170. And average grants will increase 29% at community colleges, 20% at state universities, and 16.5% at the University of Minnesota and private colleges. So these amounts would make a really, really significant difference for students. One of our students told a legislator, $1,000 to a student is like $1 million to anybody else. And I think that's says it better than I've ever heard it said before.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cirkvanek. Members, any other thoughts, comments? All right, I think as we move forward and consider when we see what budget target we might get for the committee, I do think one of the focuses all of us talk about is how do we make school more affordable for students? And I think this will be one of our options that we can look at that will directly go to aid our students. So we're going to lay Senate File number 2894, lay it over for possible inclusion. With that, we've gotten to all of our business, so we are adjourned.